Sometimes people shy away from the truth because they don't want their illusions to be shattered. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "We are not always aware of how much we wish to remain in the comfortable veil of fantasy." Think about it. They told you that love would save you, that it would be pure, redemptive, and unconditional. The right woman, they promised, would heal all the wounds you've never dared to face alone. Those cracks formed in childhood, in stories, in songs. From a young age, a subtle promise was whispered into your subconscious. One day, someone will come and make everything right. You believed it, not because you were weak or naive, but because you were never given the tools to see past this illusion. But what if that promise was never meant to be kept? What if the love you've been seeking isn't salvation but strategy? And what if nature, the very philosopher you've been told to fear or misunderstand, saw this coming from the very beginning? Nature didn't write fairy tales. Instead, nature wrote with precision, like a scalpel, cutting through masks, myths, and the emotional comfort zones we so carefully build around our egos. And when nature looked at love, at women, and at how we relate to each other, what it saw wasn't pretty. It wasn't polite. It wasn't the fairy tale romance we've been fed, but it was the truth. And it's a truth most of us, especially men, are still unwilling to hear. Here's the uncomfortable reality. You don't love her. You love the version of her that reflects who you wish you were. You adore the way she validates you. Her presence tells you that you are enough. But here's the key. Validation isn't love. And what you call love might just be a well-curated illusion designed to keep you emotionally obedient. Women throughout history had to learn how to master power in a world that denied them visibility. They weren't given swords, so they learned to fight with silence. They weren't handed control, so they mastered the art of influence. Not because they are inherently manipulative, but because they were forced to operate from the shadows while men claimed the spotlight. But the modern man fails to see this. He mistakes strategy for softness. He confuses adaptability with innocence. He believes she is fragile, that her love is unconditional, that her tenderness is purity. But it's not. It's power, refined, rehearsed, and executed with precision. While you spill your emotions and call it vulnerability, she is silently scanning your words for leverage. While you dream of soulmates, she is calculating the cost of closeness, weighing need against control, desire against influence. Not maliciously, but instinctively, because she learned long ago that the one who sees the game but doesn't speak of it wins. And what about you? You were raised to idealize her, to put her on a pedestal so high that it excuses your blindness. You don't see the strategy because you don't want to. You prefer the dream, the muse, the good girl, the healer. But what if those roles are masks? Masks she has learned to wear because they work. Nights she exposed the lie, not to destroy women, but to destroy the stories men tell themselves about women. As long as you believe she is morally superior by nature, as long as you think her affection is without motive, you will continue to surrender your agency in exchange for emotional security. She will accept that power, not because she despises you, but because the system taught her to use it. The harsh truth: you are not being loved. You are being handled. And the scariest part is, you like it that way. You enjoy the comfort, the worship, the emotional anesthesia that lets you avoid facing yourself. Because the moment you stop needing her to be your redemption, you'll have to confront what's beneath your need. And that, not heartbreak, is what truly terrifies you. Fear, as it turns out, wears many disguises. One of its favorites is romantic devotion. You think you're loving her purely. You think you're offering yourself freely. But look deeper. What you're offering isn't love. It's bargaining. You're saying, if I give you my heart, will you fix the parts of me I don't want to face? You're not seeking a partner. You're seeking the solution. While you offer your soul in search of comfort, she isn't listening to your words. She's listening to your needs, not because she's cruel, but because every vulnerability you reveal becomes a map of your emotional pressure points. And she learns them quickly, not to hurt you, but to position herself in your psyche, where she becomes indispensable. Nature saw this. He understood that what we often call love is simply a subtle contest for emotional real estate. Who controls the rhythm of closeness? Who withholds first? Who gives in last? These are not questions of affection. They are questions of power. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The one who needs less controls more. You give her everything. Time, attention, identity. And you call that honesty. She gives you just enough to keep you chasing. She calls that connection. But it isn't connection. It's choreography. We've built a culture where women are taught to influence without appearing to lead, and men are taught to submit while thinking they're conquering. It's not her fault. It's not your fault. It's the result of centuries of conditioning, where men dominated the outer world and women mastered the inner one. And now, in modern love, you walk straight into the trap, smiling. She doesn't need to argue. She needs to suggest. She doesn't need to demand. She needs to desire. And in doing so, she shapes you, your decisions, your identity, without ever raising her voice. That's not manipulation. That's mastery. You call her mysterious because you don't understand her. You don't understand her because you've never questioned your own myths. You still think love is about unity. She knows love is about leverage. And when she pulls away, it haunts you. Not because she's gone, but because your reflection left with her. Nietzsche would say, you never loved her. You loved the way she made you feel about yourself. She was the stage where you performed your worth. Now the stage is gone, and you're left with silence and the truth. And here it is. She didn't deceive you. She simply stopped playing the role you wrote for her. You didn't see her. You saw your idea of her. And when she stopped performing that role, you called her cold. You called her cruel. But maybe the real betrayal was yours, for loving a fantasy and expecting her to live inside it. Nietzsche didn't condemn women. He condemned men who refused to grow up. Men who wanted muses instead of mirrors. Men who begged for angels instead of daring to face human beings in all their glorious, terrifying complexity. If you're ready to stop blaming her, then you're ready to look at yourself. Not with guilt, not with shame, but with clarity. And from clarity, something radical can begin. Not the end of love, but its transformation. You were taught that love is the highest virtue, that to love selflessly is the mark of a good man. But what if that selflessness is just another mask for emotional dependency? What if beneath the poetic gestures and grand declarations, there's a quiet fear? If I don't give everything, she won't stay. So, you offer more. You compromise more. You erase parts of yourself to become what you think she wants. Not because you love her, but because you fear being without her. This isn't nobility. It's submission disguised as romance. And while you think you're being brave, she feels something else entirely. Control. Not through force, but through presence. Through your willingness to orbit around her approval. Here's the truth nature hinted at, though few are willing to hear it. Love, when rooted in need, is never equal. She may not ask you to change, but you change anyway. She may not demand your obedience, but you give it anyway. Why? Because you've convinced yourself that her acceptance is your salvation. But she didn't ask to be your savior. She was just being herself. And you turned that into a mirror of your worth. When that mirror cracks, you don't just feel loss. You feel collapse. Because it wasn't love you were protecting. It was the story. The story that says, if she loves me, I am whole. If she stays, I matter. But stories aren't truth. And when reality intrudes, you call it betrayal. Nietzsche would call it awakening. The lie isn't that she has power. The lie is that you didn't see it. You called her gentle, but she was observant. You called her nurturing, but she was strategic. You thought she surrendered, but she was choosing. Always choosing, Because she understood something you never did. The one who sees the dynamic clearly holds the key. Now, finally, the illusion begins to crack. You remember moments when she smiled, but something behind that smile was calculating. You remember how your smallest emotional shifts were answered before you even voiced them. You thought she was intuitive, and she was. But intuition, for her, is survival. It's her way of staying a step ahead in a world that never gave her the power to confront, only the power to shape. This isn't about blame, it's about reality. You live in a world where love is sold as mutual surrender, but practiced as mutual leverage, where vulnerability is branded as a virtue, but used as currency. And the moment you realize this, you either grow up or break down. Most choose to break. They go back to the myth. They look for another muse, another emotional performance partner. They say, this time will be different. But it won't, because the roles haven't changed. Only the actors have. And until you stop needing her to play the part, you'll never meet the person behind the mask. But what happens when the mask is gone? When you stop seeking roles and start seeing reality, you begin to notice what was always there. Not manipulation, not malice, but instinct. A woman, aware of her lack of institutional power, mastering relational power instead. Not because she wants to control you, but because this is the only power she's been allowed to have. So ask yourself not if she's ready to love you. Ask if you're ready to see her without the myth. Because only then can you see yourself. And only then does love stop being the story and become a revolution. If this shifted your perspective even a little, share it, like it, subscribe. Not for entertainment, but because you're ready to stop living in illusions and start seeing things as they truly are.